kind of the order of progression of things. I always have to add this on my wall because it's really helpful, but they start out with the state constitution, and then based on staying within that constitution, they pass laws, and then they divide the laws up into these different groups of laws, of what the health and safety code is probably one that you're familiar with. A lot of our things regarding the building department is in the health and safety code, and government code for your accessibility stuff. But below those things are the California Code of Regulations, of which Title 24 is the building standards. So these are regulations to implement these laws. And these laws are passed by the people, but these regulations are negotiated through the Building Standards Commission and then all their public meetings. Basically, people on a consensus basis try to adopt pre-made documents like we did, the model codes, or whatever, to try to meet these broad things that are in the health and safety code, where it might say, under the law, it might say, we need safe buildings in California, so make it happen. Building Standards Commission goes, wow, that's a big project. How about we just adopt ICC's model codes and go from there? And they do that. So it's Title 1 through 28 are the California Code of Regulations, of which 24 is the Building Standards Code. So Title 24, one of my pet peeves has always been, everyone keeps saying Title 24 for energy, or Title 24 used to be for disabled access. Right. Title 24 is all the building codes. That's what it is.
Yeah.
And if anyone should know that, we should know it here in TSD. I mean, even mechanical just says it all the time, and it drives me crazy. But anyway, this is my pet peeve.
Right. I've mentioned that numerous times in the field.
I think it's good.
Title 24. I go, all the building codes are Title 24. You're talking about the energy code.
It's like
the newest kind of codes. That's why, like the accessibility stuff was Title 24 because it was kind of new. And then the energy is kind of like the new code, so everybody calls it Title 24.
Exactly.
We've added a new chapter in Title 24, kind of, more accurately.
So if you pick just our Title 24, it's divided up into parts, right? 1 through 12. So we got the building code, the electrical code, mechanical code, part 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's how it kind of breaks down all the way from there to the end product. And then we modify this stuff. We put our amendments into that stuff. But California puts their amendments into the California Code of Regulations. Title 24. They adopt the model code, then they amend it.
Right.
That comes to us, and then we amend that for San Francisco.
And that's when it becomes a Chapter 11D.
So who makes the decision whether we adopt the IRC? I mean, what we do with IRC and CRC?
Management here.
Oh, management here will do it. Okay, so it's not us here.
No, no. It would be David's level on up.
Oh, okay.
And I think I don't know. It's hard to say which way they want to go, but usually when it comes around to code adoption cycle time, no one really wants to make any big changes because you don't know the ramifications of all the big changes. So they kind of carry forward whatever's already happening. So that's kind of what they've done.
It's work now, so we just
code.
keep doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So unless there's a big push for some reason for someone to change it.
Light and vent.
So
Ceiling height.
Housing and community development. Is that, because I'm not that familiar with
Title
that.
25?
You're right.
Okay, so I was going to kind of go through that. The laws, health and safety code I mentioned.
Right.
We have the health and safety code, a good portion of it anyway. That's this thing, this set of books. That's all the health and safety code. 17 900s are a lot of our stuff is in there. And we have a subscription to this, so and have for like 20 years or something. And they, so once a year they send out a pocket part, this thing. And you just take out this old one and slip in the new one. And it is a correction to the original published book of laws. So, I don't know what they have marked here, building used for human habitation. Someone was doing some research and marked that.
So all the housing code that we have, I guess we have the housing. So that's not,
That's all San Francisco.
it's all just San Francisco limits.
Yeah, that's, I think the state requires cities to adopt something relating to the maintenance of buildings. They don't really have anything at the state level that they've adopted and say everyone use this. But they do require, I think they require us to do it. So the housing division has already put together, actually in one of those health and safety codes, it says, it used to say that the Building Standards Commission has to adopt the Uniform Building Code, the state and the law, and they just recently changed to say that it doesn't have to be the Uniform Building Code, it just has to be a model code, so that therefore we can use ICC. Well, housing, there's a state housing code, a model state housing code, a uniform housing code, and the state law says you have to use, I can't remember, like chapter 1 and 2 of the 1956 Uniform Housing Code as your model to go forward. So we've adopted that, but and then modified it tons, with all of those San Francisco stuff.
Right.
The state's not that involved in local maintenance. So anyway, laws, that's the only group of laws that we have subscription to, and it's just, research-wise, if you want to go right back to where it all starts, that's where you go back to the law, rather than the regulations that are adopted to implement the law. So, someone has to maintain that. We just get one batch of those updates a year. It takes 5 minutes.
Right,
So
but how do we keep on that list? Is that?
we have a subscription to it,
Right,
and occasionally you'll have to reapprove it to finance.
so
They'll ask
that's,
you
how do we know that, do we get notified
that,
that it's the subscription that needs to be renewed?
the mail comes here to this division, comes to me. And I think it's on an automatic renewal, but you have to open the envelope and look and see what it is, so that,
Right,
because some of them are, they're trying to sell you some other state laws.
So,
Some of them are, you haven't paid yet.
so if we switch
Send it to finance.
buildings, is there I guess we look in the back of one of those books and say, if you're moving, please let us know where you're moving to, right? I mean, because it's automatic, so,
Yeah, I guess I have a copy of some old invoices that
Oh, okay.
have the contact information.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
Finance also has it, since they have a
Oh.
pre-approved subscription to it.
Oh, okay, so finance will have it.
Health and safety code is available online, and it's one of those links.
That you sent
I
out.
sent you guys under state laws. And under that state laws link, it also
Yeah,
has
yeah, yeah.
government code and all the other laws too. So that's pretty handy.
Okay.
It's questionable whether you really need this or not. It's just been going on for so long.
It's just more, yeah.
right.
No one's ever gonna
Looks like
question
a-
it, so why, we're not writing code, so we don't have to see if the codes exist, that code existed or something like that, or,
Well, yeah, but people could mess up.
yeah, anyways.
None of this is our hard copy.
It's a present when you bring it.
It's a
bring out state
presence.
law.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
says
yeah,
right
yeah.
here- And actually, it's an annotated version, so it gives little historical
Oh,
changes and notations and notes and stuff in it, so it explains a little
Mhm.
bit of this stuff.
The
Kind of like having
reasoning
a
behind it.
commentary a little
Right.
bit, a little
mm.
abbreviated commentary. So next level down is the California Code of Regulations, and back out here. So all of these, Title 24 you already know, so that's our building code. But in the building code, it says that we will maintain a copy of Title 8, Title 24, Title 25, and Title 19, that we will maintain a copy of those publications as well, or the director, in the office of the director, it says, but we are representative of the director. That's this thing here. So it's just like Title 24, only it's for other stuff. OSHA stuff, tower cranes, it's under the OSHA regulations. Title 25 is the housing and community development, so that's a lot of stuff that housing would have to deal with upstairs. It's maintenance of buildings. It's all the stuff about trailers and mobile home parks and all that stuff is in there.
That's all online
It's not building
too.
code. Yeah. Title 24 is about the only thing that's not online, and that's only online kind of through the links that we have with the Building Standards Commission. That little, the rest of the stuff is strictly regulations from the state. They're not adopted
So
standards.
that's in chapter 1 of the building code that we have to maintain all these?
Yeah. It's not-
Yeah, I've got to start reading code a lot. I've gone shallow.
Availability of codes, at least one complete copy each of Titles 8, 19, 20, 24, and 25, with all revisions shall be maintained in the office of the building official responsible for administration and enforcement of this code. Each state department concerned and each city, county, or city and county shall have an up-to-date copy of the code available for public inspection. See Health and Safety Code, section 18942. So in the law, it says that we have to maintain that.
Right. Have you ever had somebody come here and say, I
No.
want to see a copy?
But what they do is, different city departments fight over, who has to maintain all this stuff because they don't want to maintain it if they don't have to. They say, okay, the code says you have to maintain it, so you guys have to keep a copy of this. Board of Supervisors is one of those. They have to have a copy for the public, but ours is in the regulations. So they say, well, you are us. So you maintain it because we don't want to.
Who's that, the Board of Suit?
Board of Suits, yeah. So updates, subscription service to that is this pile right here.
Oh.
Just like our building code, they get sent out supplements. Once
So
every
it's
couple of
Reuters
weeks.
that goes there. I guess those books say Reuters. I never see us update those.
So Corey used to do it, and that's why there's a big pile here. As soon as she left, none of us have been doing it.
Uh-huh.
So I don't know, maybe if you give me a secretary, or
wow.
maybe if Ken or
Yeah.
someone.
If there's time. I mean, no one really goes to that book. So
We
whether
do, though.
huh?
We do though.
Oh, we do.
Stuff like elevators. We've done that quite often. The housing stuff for housing upstairs questions.
That's the week of between Christmas and New Year's is when we'll do it. That's the slowest
It's
time.
really
we
not
need
very
to get
hard
a-
to maintain. It
We
doesn't
need to
take
get a
that long.
clerk. I mean,
Yeah.
that's-
The problem is they've been trying to get a clerk for with those two guys too, a third person, and it hasn't happened. And I don't know. It's crazy.
Well, it's okay. We can't do everything,
I know.
right? So, you know what I mean?
That's why that's there. All right.
Wow.
So, then I thought I'd just go through this binder a little bit. This is the administrative process for the code adoption. This happens to be 2013, so it's the cycle before last. Just to, so you know what's in here mainly, I just wanted to go through a little bit. State publishes this thing, the triennial code adoption cycle. It's their process. It's the state's process for adopting the code. So, and their timeline is over a whole year or year and a half. 7 of 12 to 12 of 13, so a year and a half. But we do need to know some of this stuff because because on occasion we want to have input with the state, and this will explain when they're taking input and when they're not, or when it's too late. And in addition to that, we need to know for our code adoption the soonest point that they have their amendments to the model codes available, because that's when we can start our process of amending that. And let's see, February, somewhere right around here, January and February are the California Building Standards Commission's final codification and filing codes with the Secretary of State. So that's when they've had all their public input, and they're just filing their final express terms. That's what it's called. And they put it on their website, and that's what I've been publishing, those binders up there. These things. They're just PDFs on the Building Standards Commission website for each code. This is building an existing building code. And the state agencies that write the California amendments to the model code, they're grouped by the state agency. Oshbod, the existing building in the back, state fire marshal. That's what that is. It's just a reprint of the express terms that are from the Building Standards Commission website. And then I put tabs in the beginning of them and title pages and stuff like that in before they publish them. But
Go ahead, keep going.
what reason we need that, or a couple of the reasons, is the model code, say, under doors has 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5, say 10.01, 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.5. After 0.5, if the state has a modification and it doesn't quite fit into an existing 0.1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, they make a 0.6, right? And so their modification now is they want to include something, so they have 0.6 and they add their thing. When we do our modifications, might have a new thing and we want to add a 0.7. Well, the model code only goes up to 0.4 or 5. This thing takes 6 and we want to take 7. If we don't look at this, we take 6 and they take 6, and then there's a conflict of which one is effective, basically. You know, they conflict with each other. So you'll run into those quite often. That's a big part of the code adoption thing. It's just picking the section number that doesn't conflict with the state. And no one else in this building, even though it goes around to everybody, they don't seem to want to look in this. And right now we've got maybe a half dozen conflicts from having code sections that were
like
already picked by the state.
Oh, okay.
We should catch here, but again, there's only so much you can do sometimes.
Wow.
So that's that's what's going to happen February. This was February 20, whatever that is.
2016.
29th or something. The end of January, beginning of February is when the final express terms are available.
Okay, so then you print that out, and
Print
then
it
if
out.
anybody wants to do, if we want to do anything, we cross-reference this and make sure that we're not stepping on their
not
toes.
stepping on our toes. Yeah. And there's just stuff in here like delete sections too, so it's kind of the same thing. If they deleted section 10.1, then don't modify 10.1 because it's not there anymore, you know?
Can
We have to find
Do
a
we
different
throw-
place for our amendment.
when the new one comes out in 2019, do we just throw this away, or do we keep
I
it somewhere?
saved one copy, and it's been saved for each code cycle in those cabinets over there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, for Alan Tokugawa did a similar thing. So that's this triennial code adoption cycle. You can get this on the Building Standards Commission website. It's updated as the timeline changes. But basically, the last 6 months, the code is published 6 months before it becomes effective. And our code and their code both become effective at the beginning of the year. So we start as early as we can, as soon as we know we have this thing back here. And we want to be finished by about the time the code's published. We could wait till the code's published till you get the California code. And then we can modify it and it'd be real easy because you can see what section numbers are used and which aren't and all that stuff. But we have to be finished by this point for the rest of the legislative process to finish. So really we need to start back here.
When that thing's first printed out.
Right. Because
First available.
all of our hearings will end in August. August is our like drop dead date to have everything finalized. It's all in here. This thing's pretty important. Legislative Process Handbook for City Departments. It's from San Francisco. It's republished, so before my code cycle starts, I print out their newest, whatever it is. That's on the Board of Supervisors website, but it tells how to process legislation in San Francisco. So since all of our amendments are legislation, I just read this thing about 10 times and highlight things and then just start checking off the things. You know, it says how to give it to the Board of Supervisors, who writes it, timelines, all kinds of stuff. Just everything you need to know to pass legislation in San Francisco. You know, step 1, step 2, step 3. A checklist. I just follow the checklist. And the things that change on it are things like they might want the submittal, and early on they wanted the submittal, 5 copies to one to hand out to each one of the supervisors in the subcommittee at the Board of Supervisors, and now they just take electronic and nothing's published. So it's a lot easier. They can take an email.
Right.
So not a lot of people know that there's a document available to maybe the city attorneys and stuff. And you'll get asked questions about legislation from our own department because they don't know about any of this stuff. And I would look it up in here. This is when we start our code adoption cycle, there's usually an update to the BIC of what we're going to do, a plan. They want to know that it's going to be finished in time. And so I did a kind of a an outline of things I wanted to bring up to them. It's just a history of the building code. That's all stuff that I just told the BIC. You can tell them whatever you want or nothing. But there's some notes if you wanted to copy. And another thing I did was I went back and listened to Lawrence's code adoption cycle presentation that he made before he left 15 years ago to see what kind of stuff he told them, and then just kind of copied those types of things. You guys have asked about a calendar that I make up.
Yeah, I think I saw
That's
that.
the calendar that I make up. And it just starts in the end of February, beginning of March, when we have the final express terms. That's the date. Little indicator that on 3/5 this became available, express terms.
Is this available? Is it in the P drive or something?
They've all got locations on them.
What is that? P drive, TSD 2013,
Adoption.
and adoption calendar. Oh, okay, so we're gonna have to make one for the 2016.
Well, there should.
There is.
Oh,
one
there
for
are
2000. I have another
2019.
binder
Yeah,
with
yeah.
the-
Oh,
exactly.
okay.
So 2019.
Yeah.
Change the dates.
But yeah, basically you've got to go through and figure out the dates because they change a little bit. And I'll go through that a little bit, but you can see that there's heavy code advisory committee stuff. As soon as the final express terms are out, we publish them and we start talking about them in April, May, and June. Final meeting in July. Actually, final meeting in August. That's when it goes to the BIC.
So do you print out the express terms and give them to all the?
Mm-hmm.
You actually print it out.
Well, I
Well, I know you
publish
print
these,
this,
so we get like 20 of them.
right, and you give them to all the commission members, right? Or all the subcommittee.
Code advisory committee.
Code
Yeah.
advisory.
When-
I'll show you the distribution.
When you say you publish it, we print it out on just a regular printer?
No, I give it to repo.
Oh, okay.
I'll go over that in here.
Gotcha,
too.
gotcha.
Yeah, they do it so much faster and quicker.
We're out of paper again.
Calendars.
But you print this out here.
No. He sent it to repo mail.
I send a PDF to repo with an order
Okay.
sheet, which I'll show you the order
All
sheet.
right, all right, all right. all right.
They bind it. They punch the holes in it. They make
Oh, okay.
the
Cover.
the main pages heavier. They make the dividers and label
Oh,
them.
okay. All right.
And
I just have to do the electronic files, so if I did a title page like this, I'd have to make a Word document and include that with the PDF.
okay. And then repo is right by our work, right?
Across the street
Right.
by
Yeah.
your house.
Yeah, by my house. Between the parking
way.
lot. Yeah, between the parking lot, your parking lot, and here,
Okay.
across from the gas station,
Across from
in this little
tower.
no man land area. Yeah. Okay.
I think the schedule is probably the most important thing, and you probably have to just figure that out. I put down all the important dates from different sources. Then I have copies in here about, but you kind of have to work it backwards from, the
Effective
from the
date.
very end, January 1st. Department needs the code books, right? They got to start enforcing it, so we didn't even have them in time this last time, but that's the goal, is to have them January 1st for the department, and then you kind of work backwards, and there's a whole month of August that the Board of Supervisors is off, so it doesn't look at any legislation, and that's basically when we finish up with our process. So we actually submit the package to the Board of Supervisors to start their process while they're gone, so that the first meeting, the first day that they come back and have a meeting, it's on the agenda for their very first meeting, because there's just not that much extra play in there to wait for anything. February. I was trying to look at, let's see, March. I guess I didn't put the date that the express terms became available in here, but you can go over my notes, and so you'll at least know that things to be thinking about to try to figure out where things start, stop. Same calendar. Starting to get a little bit more tied down. These are probably the off days that the Board of Supervisors is out. And the circle days are either
I know what those are.
the subcommittee
Subcommittees.
dates for the Board of Supervisors or the full board. And you just kind of have to know when they are so that you can plan backwards.
Oh, so that's the Board of Supervisors Subcommittee dates.
Yeah, I think so. There's a way to get that, and it's in here too. Todd Myers, American Legal Publishing. Ken has his email address because I've copied him on a bunch of them, but he's the American legal contact for publishing our code. So you have to work with him because he needs the files as soon as possible so that he can publish them and so that they will be available by the 1st. and he needs just a little bit more time than we can possibly give him, because it has to wait for the Board of Supervisors to approve before, well, when the Board of Supervisors approves it, a copy goes automatically to him. That's in November or October, somewhere around there. That's not quite enough time for him to publish them, send out all the stuff and have it here on time. He can do it on the website probably in time. But he usually asks for an advance copy, the stuff that we submitted to the Board of Supervisors, assuming there wouldn't be any changes. And then he starts putting that together, and then when the real one comes in, he just checks to make sure that they're the same, that they didn't make final changes in our code that we don't know about.
And that's the legal.
American legal.
American legal.
That's this guy.
So on the, for that calendar, on the website, Board of Supervisors website, has their regular scheduled meetings. So that's what I put on that one calendar. And you can see August, they're in recess, so they don't have no scheduled meeting on the 6th, the 13th, the 20th, or 27th. So no use planning anything there other than submitting it, all the stuff that they need so that they can have first meeting would be on September 3rd. And this is just the main Board of Supervisors. There's actually a motion that they record at the Board of Supervisors specifying which dates that they're taken off throughout the year. So I grab a copy of that each year and mark those days as off so you don't schedule something during that. It's the same thing. So this is my spreadsheet for the distribution for model codes and these things to necessary people, and it's the document is at that address, and the things that we're distributing are the express terms for the building code, express terms for the residential code, express terms for the mechanical and plumbing code, express terms for the electrical codes, energy and green, and then the model codes, IBC, IRC, UPC, and the number that goes to the different people that are down on the list. This is all a code advisory committee. They're the main people that you get, but we have the department review each chapter too, and so we at least send a copy to the deputy director for them to appoint someone in their group that they want to review it.
And these loose leaf IRC, UPC, UMC, that's on a website for like a PDF on a website?
The loose leaves are just these. So I order some. These are available.
Oh, so we have to pay for those then?
We
That's
have
what.
to actually
Okay.
order them, and there will be an order.
So it's not like the white pages like that, not the changes. It is actually a book.
A model code. So
Yeah.
what we're trying to get is what the final code is going to say.
Uh-huh.
And the only way we can get the final code is
Is
to
to
get
just
the
actually
model
just
code
buy
plus
it.
the California changes
Oh,
together.
gotcha. Okay.
So that's our chance
So-
to preview as early as March what the code is going to say.
Changes in the model code.
Yeah, the changes are printable PDF, and the model code is
New model code.
buy it.
And the changes to the new model code
Yeah,
from
yeah,
California. Yeah.
Okay.
Comparing our changes to that. So I order these quantities and everything, and there's a part of that spreadsheet is a Excel thing that put the cost together, or at least rough costs.
Mm-hmm.
You still have to get a quote from somebody, but you can see it's $15,000. Repo was $3,000, and the codes were $12,000 roughly. So there's quite an expense just on that portion.
Mm-hmm.
And that would start right around when the express terms become available, so you could order. Since the model code's available right now, you could even order now. 2000 19?
19, yeah.
19.
Or 2018. Yeah, because the California will be 2019, so it's 1 year back. Yeah.
And the NEC is even a little bit, it's off a year.
That's it.
But anyway, this page is what this is. It's
With the download?
yeah, exactly. The PDFs that you get online will be a PDF from the Building Standards Commission for the changes that they want to make to the building code. A PDF of DSA, AC for the building code. A PDF of all the various state agencies. Each one is, a number of pages, and repo charges per page. So that's why the spreadsheet is made up, so that they will know what to quote me in putting together one of these, how many pages it's going to be.
So this is we create a work order for them, I guess,
Yeah, I'll get to that.
Yeah. That's...
So on the building standards using page, they'll have a list. These are all the PDFs of all the various changes that are in that table back here. That's just the number of pages in it, but it's from the Building Standards Commission. It's a final express terms for one of the codes. In this case, it's the California Green Building Standards Code. So I just print that out to make sure I get everything. We don't have to worry about OSHPD necessarily, except for OSHPD 3. So we do OSHPD 3, but OSHPD 1, 2, and 4 are all hospitals. So their amendments don't really affect us. Although it doesn't hurt to put them in here. I put 2 of the OSHPD ones in there. A regular, which must be the OSHPD 3 stuff. And I don't know what OSHPD STR for structural is. I guess I probably didn't know, so I put it in there just in case. That's my request for a quote to Julie at Repo Mail. And I tell her exactly what I want. And it's all, the number of total copies, the number of pages, the weight of the paper. This is all stuff that you can just copy over, resubmit with the just maybe corrected numbers. 3 hole punched, screw holes installed, heavier weight paper on the front and rear. And I don't know how much stuff you bought from the city, but basically you're sticking your own neck out if you ever buy anything and don't have a pre-approval for it. You may have to. Sometimes the city will just say, no, we won't even look at it if you paid for it. You didn't get pre-authorization. Sorry about that. Whether they would normally buy it or not, they have to have a quote and approval before anything's purchased or agreed upon purchasing.
And that's through our finance people?
Our finance, yeah. So this is a quote back from Julie Career, that's her email address, for those different items. It's about $3,000 worth. I just sent that along with the requisition to planning. It gets everyone's signature. So this plus the quote.
And this is just the regular form.
Just the regular form for
that's on our intranet or something like that.
Intranet.
Yeah.
Requisition. It's called general requisition. So it's not a lot of detail. The description of the products is per the attached quote. And then the justification is just that there's a code adoption cycle coming up. Quantity 1, total value, and who. Vendor probably should put a repo graphics. So that was to get all these things, to get the model codes. This is the thing I
Oh,
did for
separate.
getting the model codes.
Okay.
Exactly the same thing, requisition form. I guess that's my quote. You really should use a quote from somebody, which would be ICC. I think this is,
Just ICC's
Builder's
website
books.
or something like that, or did you get a builder's
no,
book source?
get a physical quote. If you use ICC's website, you might not have the right tax rate. It might not have included shipping, and it's got to be an in number. So if you just plug in all the cost of the books, you're going to be off, and it's going to come in more than that. And then it's a
So
big
we
problem paying
have
them.
builder's book sources email address or something like that.
And same with ICC's.
ICC. Oh, okay. So you don't.
Joan Pantagola.
Okay.
But I do start off on the website to get an idea of things and budget-wise.
Mm-hmm.
All this stuff is. There's a quote coming back from ICC for the model code, so 6,000. And then there was the 3,000 from the repo for the externals.
So the repo mail. This is maybe you'll say. How do you put the tabs in? How do you tell them to put the tabs where? Because it doesn't come with tabs, you know.
Yeah, I don't know, let's see. I don't recall. I'll have to think about that for a minute.
Okay, no problem.
I can't remember if I made up like a mock-up for them.
Yeah. Or
Or
like you
just-
printed up one here and you slipped them in and you say, "This is where I want the tabs," right?
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
The tabs are named with the same name that's on the front page of each one of the PDFs.
Oh, okay.
PDFs, those are similar, so
Oh, I got you.
they could put it together. But the first thing you get back is a purchase order after you send in your thing for a quote. That's what the purchase order to ICC looks like. And if they send it right to ICC, that's fine. Otherwise, if they just send it to you, make sure you forward it to ICC so they know they have an order. I've had that problem before. Village Book Source PO, same thing. This is the repo. They have three-part NCR, kind of like our permit application forms, and you fill out one for each
Bundle?
document.
Yeah,
basically. Each document. They ask the number of copies, and you can follow all my own same stuff here. Insert two tabbed and labeled dividers. Cover
Oh, we probably
stock.
just say we give them 5 PDFs and we say insert a tab after each PDF. Is kind of what
Basically,
you know.
Yes. Yeah, nothing really special there, except there's just one for each thing. NEC, IBC. There is a table of contents, so this is a PDF, and each one would get a tab.
Mm-hmm.
General contact numbers for people at the board. Land use committee is the first place it goes. So scheduling with Lisa Miller ahead of time, I go and talk to her. And she's been through a bunch of these code cycles, so they really try to hold your hand to make sure everything goes smooth, give you like first-class service. There's a series of memos. I don't know how mandatory they are, but basically, you know, we're at TSD level and we're asking the department to do something. And so we can't really direct anyone to do anything. So it's all through the deputy directors and stuff. So in order to establish that authority to ask for these things, we send out these memos talking about the code adoption cycle and how we need them to help us.
Give me a minute.
Sure.
You can say basically the same stuff, just change the names of the deputy directors.
Right. So you're just asking them.
So that's through the director, just telling him what's coming up.
Yeah.
And then there's some other memos for the deputy directors and things.
And where is this document?
That one I'm not sure. I have to look in the here,
Yeah.
unless I have a path at the
It
end page
doesn't.
or
It
something.
doesn't have anything. That's what I was looking for.
Yeah. Worst case is you retype it.
Right.
Can't do it. Oh, so this is the plan to the director. We got the schedule.
Right.
This is what we're gonna do. You do have to read and see if we're still gonna do some of those things. If we're not gonna do them, don't put it in there. Memo to manager. So I'm gonna copy memo to Vic. Memo to board of supervisors. Staff review. So it's gonna be copies of the amendments. So when the staff does its staff review, it needs copies of everything to look at, and they all want electronic copies, which we publish the physical copies, but we also put an electronic copy on the J drive of whatever we do have. And I hand out this online reference document list to tell them where it is in case they want to look at it. It's got all the various forms and links to the San Francisco Code, American Legal, where the California amendments are on the Building Standards Commission website. There's the free online place that we already have a connection to for a link. This is a list of the building code chapters. Going to permit services, I have two groups look at each chapter. The building inspection division and the plan review division, because they have such different viewpoints of things. Also, if one of them doesn't do it, at least I have the other.
Yeah, I think.
But I have someone that try to sign up for the chapters in the beginning, get someone to commit right in the very beginning to, request 3 chapters or something like that. I just pass around this sign-in sheet. Really signed up for 3 chapters here. And,
Like
Tom
everybody.
Lee.
Tom's
Is this
leaving.
going to be
Tom,
Tom
Robert.
Lee's leaving?
Tom Lee is leaving
Oh,
probably
yeah.
in 6 months.
Oh, geez.
Robert Chung is already burning off vacation.
Yeah,
Rudy's not there. Hanson's not there. I think we need some people to shadow these people, because to take this on, Ron's probably too high to do. Ron Tom is probably too high to, play with this type of stuff. Review it.
Well, there will always be the code geek kind of guys that want to do
We need
this
to
kind of
find him
thing.
now.
Yeah, that's true. Like Stephen.
Yeah, Steven
gonna
would
take
like
on
to do
the-
it. Yeah, maybe Cyril is kind of interested.
Yeah, well, Cyril will do some stuff, and
Yeah.
there's the super geek,
Which one? Or
Carrie.
Carrie?
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
okay, then good.
Carrie,
Okay.
Yeah,
eat
he's a
up
good
all.
voice. So-
You'd eat up all this.
Okay, good.
All
And
the
this is going to all be
architectural
through
stuff.
the supervisor, so it's their responsibility to do this.
Yeah.
I just make sure it's happening because I pass this thing around because I want to know everything was counted for
Yeah.
to start with. And they'll just do it in one of those supervisor meetings, they'll start signing people up. So one to permit and one to, oh, the same thing for the administrative bulletins, by the way.
Oh,
They're just less important because all we need is the BIC's approval on them. We're just changing code section numbers. There's no new administrative bulletin stuff that we're doing at the last minute. We wait till all of our code stuff has met all of its deadlines and everything before the CAC even starts looking at this kind of stuff. It's just done at the end, and we send the PDF of each one of these right to the publisher, and they publish them along with the rest of the code. But you can use some help to distributing those around to people to get them to change the code section numbers to what they're gonna be.
oh, this is what the. How come Joseph, you and Kevin McHugh's on this one? Well, this is for inspection.
I guess I made one for both, and I just circled inspection and circled permit for the other one.
Yeah.
Same chapters, just different people. Not sure what these are for, other than, I do make the table of contents in the front page, and then just attach the PDF copies behind that with the dividers. Green, energy, just each one of the codes. So this is the final code advisory committee meeting that approved all of the amendments. At the very end, they're approving, chapter 1 and 7 and 3 and 2 during different times. At the end, they've have to have approved all of them. And at the last meeting, I just have them confirm, that they've approved all the chapters.
Nice.
Even though they individually did them,
Right, because you have the different subcommittees, and then you have the final code advisory, the complete committee that says, okay, we adopt all, everybody.
And there's two ways to do that, though. You can have the code advisory committee approve all of what the subcommittees have approved by that date, once in March, once in April, once in May, once in June, once in July, and I guess once in August. Or you can just get all the subcommittees to work on approving everything, and then have at the very end the code advisory committee say, everything's good. Or you can do both. I've done both to make sure I didn't miss anything. Because basically at that last meeting, you're handing out a complete copy of the code that's got all the changes in it, underlined in strikeout form, that you're gonna be giving the Board of Supervisors and to the BIC and everybody. So I say, that's the agenda item is, here's the code that I'm turning in. You guys approve it. This is the same thing for the land use committee, so they're gonna, there's an agenda item, building code, repeal the old and then enact the new residential code, existing building, et cetera. So a different agenda item for each. I go to those meetings. Usually you don't have to say anything. They already understand it's a administrative kind of thing. I've had to make real small presentations before. But the main thing is that you don't want any questions to come up that are going to hold anything up, so they need to be answered there. So, I'd say don't even go, except that, what if they said, well, some little question, and then it's stuck and they can't vote on it, and then your whole schedule's shot to shit. So I try to get the chiefs to go with me there because they're really responsible for their codes. Plumbing, electrical, and building chiefs. And they're real familiar with each one of the code changes that they tried to enter.
Do we have a chief building?
No. Well, take Gary Ho, he'll be real helpful.
Yeah.
Which he'll assign you.
Yeah.
And Barry Hooper even from the, there has been a question on the green building code, and I couldn't answer, and luckily Barry Hooper was there at the time. And
Who's Barry Hooper? Is he an
he's the
inspection?
Department of Environment.
Oh, okay.
contact. And he really heads up the whole green building code as far as changes, but even though our mechanical division does too. So it goes through the committee, and I forget what day of the week those committees meet, but it's in here somewhere. Their recommendation goes to the full board, which is just like a week later. There's the Board of Supervisors agenda meeting for the one that's to approve it. They have to hear it twice. They hear it at 2 successive meetings, and they are really just, again, I guess I would go, but it's, there's hardly ever any discussion at all. It's just they take the recommendation of the committee that looked into it, which is the Land Use Committee.
Right.
So they're just formalizing.
They're
Yes.
formalizing it, and they're giving
Blessing.
time for public comment too. That's why they have the two.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is another thing. You don't want any controversial stuff in any of this, because just for that reason, it gets the Board of Supervisors, 20 people line up, and they just want to talk about your marijuana amendment that you put in there. And well, then they got to further study it, and then you have to decide whether you pull it out or what you do schedule-wise. So basically, the code adoption cycle is supposed to be non-substantive changes, where you're just correcting code sections, you're deleting old amendments that you don't need anymore.
I know the artificial light event or required natural light event in the San Francisco amendments.
Was a bad idea to put in there.
So,
That's
but
Lawrence.
yeah. But then no public really cares about it, right? No architects come up there and say, "Why do we have this in here?"
If they knew, they would have. They all found out after,
So
and then there was problems.
Oh, okay.
They wanted recordings of all my meetings, and
Oh,
they wanted
wow.
to make sure that the public was invited to them, that was properly noticed. They check your.
So that might be a hiccup for us this time around, because they remember. If they remember.
No, because it's nothing new.
Oh,
It's been
okay.
around now for 20 years.
Oh, okay.
20 years, whatever it is. It's new stuff like that, like those buildings that, small footprint buildings that.
Oh, tiny homes type of stuff, or
No, just the high rises are kind of small, so they don't have
Yeah.
room for a lot of courts and stuff.
Oh,
So
yeah.
All their light and ventilation is from the exterior,
Yeah.
and so you only have so much exterior, and you cut those. You make those long units.
With the
Living room in front and the kitchen
den and
open to it, and
then you have a den.
bedrooms behind that, and one bedroom maybe you can get borrowed light, but the rear bedroom beyond that you can't get borrowed
Yeah.
light. So what do you do, and all that kind of stuff. And they have they had those already in the process of permitting at the time these changes went through, and they were all upset. Had to go to the Board of Examiners to get waivers and stuff. The second year at the Board of Supervisors is, I don't think they even take comment at the second hearing. They just say, consent agenda, we approve everything. Findings. I'll have to show you some of the files later, but findings, so in order for San Francisco to modify the code, it has to be based on climate, geology, or topography, one of those three things, and it has to be more restrictive. So we have a standard findings, which really makes it easy. There's like 19 different findings that are all related to those three items, topography, geology, and climate. And you have to assign one, at least one, to each amendment. We just have a big spreadsheet table that says the code section and then which finding it's choosing, number 5, 3, number 7, or 5, 3, and 7. It's just like that. So there has to be findings for any building standard, which is any requirement that someone wouldn't normally have to do. Something like normally all of Chapter 1 is administrative, so those aren't really requirements. They're who has responsibilities for what, but they don't really, they aren't something that you have to add to your building. Normally you don't go to Chapter 1 when you're building a building. So I put finding number 9 is not a building standard, so I put that over every thing in Chapter 1. This last time we got the Building Standards Commission called us up and said they've determined that our code for fences 6 feet or under not requiring a permit, when the model code says 7 feet or under, is an additional requirement, so therefore is a building standard and needs findings. So
which of the 19 are you going to use
yes,
for a
which is-
lower
which you're gonna
fence?
use, but basically it has to run through the legislative process again to get it ready, because we can't just assign it without anyone looking at it.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the Board of Supervisors. So Judy Boyajian has that. I may have forwarded that to you already. I'm not sure.
I think it probably has something to do with the planning department's, 3 or 6 foot. They'll say the backyard fence can be up to 6 feet high.
It definitely does. And
Yeah, yeah.
That's whether we want to maintain it in San Francisco, and if we do, we have to assign a finding based on climate geology
Yeah.
and topography. And we could say topography, because topography is the steepness of hills requiring
Wind is greater
fen-
higher
we have to-
up,
yeah,
and
maybe we
then
have to keep the fences lower for
Yeah, yeah,
wind
yeah,
or
yeah, yeah.
something. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be absolutely correct.
doesn't have to calc out.
They just need to see that you have a finding, and then the city, through the Board of Supervisors, looks at all that, and if they pass it, then that's good. It's just that if you're missing a finding, or if you don't have a finding where you're supposed to have one.
So it's not too bad what happened with the fence thing.
No, basically Judy said, we won't enforce that section until we
Get a finding in there.
Get a legislative thing, adding a finding to it. And that's in one of our cleanup legislations, just little miscellaneous things that's correct spelling and whatever. It's gonna be in there, so it'll come up and just pass through. In reality, we are enforcing it. We don't do anything different, no one even knows about it, but
Yeah,
if
yeah, yeah.
someone challenged us on that item, we actually couldn't enforce it.
That's where my 7-foot fence
That's
I'm gonna
where-
build.
Tricky guy.
Hurry,
So
do
there's a
it.
separate ordinance for each code, and each ordinance will repeal the current code, that version, and enact the new version. And so that's all done by the city attorneys. They do have you okay it, and make sure that it says what you mean. It's the only thing tricky about it is the residential code stuff. But if you just follow the word, let them do their thing, if you don't change the way we're doing things, then they can just follow their old wording, modify it a little bit for the new code cycle, and it won't be any issue. With each ordinance, supplemental information that goes with that is the actual code that, with new language underlined and deleted language crossed out, the entire code with all the changes in it. That's an attachment to this, it's supplementary information, even though it's fairly critical to everything. That and the findings tables are the only, makes up the total submittal to the Board of Supervisors, an ordinance, the code, and the findings. One of the problems I've had is while you're going through this year process and getting things approved, the Board of Supervisors is in there screwing things up, adding new ordinances that change our code. So we might have changed it here, and after it got approved, the Board of Supervisors changes it again by one of their ordinances. So we've got to figure out how to now rechange ours to match the new code. Maybe they, did away with the whole code enforcement section, they rewrote it or something. But that ordinance was finalized in November. So what do? You already submitted a code enforcement section to chapter 1 as modified. It got all approved. Is in a separate ordinance that is at the Board of Supervisors, but the stuff you are submitting is being changed next month. It's kind of a problem. So they allow us, in fact, they make us, we want to, we have to keep track of all the ordinances that happened during that last year. When we start out, we go to the American Legal website and print out the code, and that's the one that we're changing, because that'll be the most recent version. Any ordinance that happens after that, we have to go through and correct our copy, because we don't have that correction in there. And the final one that we are enacting January 1st has to be the most current language, because they're repealing, getting rid of everything to that point, and what you submit is what's gonna be the truth. So what's happened to me in the past is they changed, they wrote an ordinance that changed the building code after I submitted it and got approved. So what happened is that even though it was a brand new ordinance that changed it, it got repealed with all the rest of it, and mine got put in its place. So I just undid the whole ordinance. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And,
Well, that's
and you don't
really-
want to do that. They get real mad at that when you undo their ordinances.
Well, yeah, but I mean, if they're gonna, you have this timeline to be able to get all this stuff out.
What I was
so-
gonna say though is they will
Yeah.
accept, I didn't know this at that time, they will accept you replacing that, those attachments, the code and the findings table. They'll allow you to change that up to a real late date past where you normally think you could, because they consider the ordinance itself as the main thing they're passing.
Okay.
And we don't wanna argue with them and tell them any different.
Okay. So what they're basically saying is, hey, this is the ordinance, what we have, and
You
the
can swap
code
out your
language,
attachments.
language, we can change that. That's the lesser of, this trumps it,
Kind of.
It's kind of like an attachment to the ordinance.
Kind of. That's our
This is
story.
this is how you enforce the ordinance that we are passing.
Yeah, exactly. So we just want to bring any highlight to it. You swap them out with you ask the Board of Supervisors if you can swap out the attachment. And they say, sure. You send over the new file with your corrections in it. And if someone ever questioned it, that's exactly what we're doing, just putting in another piece of legislation that they've already passed, but was passed after our first submittal, so we gotta update it. We're not really doing anything new. The new thing was done by that other ordinance that passed.
When can Carrie start? Let's get him here. Let's. We need a transfer. This is too much.
All legislation, the planning department has to do their environmental review. It's always exempt.
So why are we dealing with the planning department's documents?
It's part of the submittal. If we don't do it, the Board of Supervisors tells planning to do it for them, and they'll get one. It's just a little bit out of your control. We've done it both ways. Let the Board of Supervisors contact planning and say, we need one of these real quick, because it's already been submitted. And we've done them where I went to planning ahead of time, or Lawrence said, we're gonna need one for this ordinance that we're submitting.
So planning's helping us out by giving this to us.
If they give it to us direct, otherwise
Why?
we're giving it directly. So I've even given them the whole thing with it all corrected and say, this is what you said last time, only corrected to this year. everything, all of our stuff, okay, let's see, so any code change has to go through the Board of Supervisors. So administrative bulletins are not code changes, they just go through the BIC. All the building code changes after they go through our legislative process get forwarded automatically to the Building Standards Commission, and they file it with the Secretary of State, and when they file it, it's effective. If they have questions, they'll send them back to you. You want to answer them real quick so they can still file them. But in addition to that, anything energy related has to go through the State Energy Commission. They have a separate approval process. So in addition to,
Yeah, actually, that is why I think in 2015, the whole thing is delayed because of the
the energy,
California Energy Commission cannot finalize
the software
it.
wasn't
Yeah.
ready and stuff.
Yeah. So that was delayed actually. The amendment was delayed for a few months.
So we don't have any amendments to the
Submits.
energy code, but the green building code does amend some energy sections or has energy related stuff in it, like requirement for solar panels on new buildings. And so they still get submitted to the Building Standards Commission. Building Standards Commission says, also need approval from the Energy Commission on this item. Well, since it's green building, we've got Barry Hooper, and he starts working on this a couple months in advance. He goes right to this Energy Commission and says, I'm gonna need this approval letter from the Building Standards Commission a couple months from now, and jumps through their hoops. One of their hoops is always gonna be this statement that from the director of the building department saying that he will assure that he's going to enforce all the state energy codes, because I guess they've had problems with them not. Different cities say, I'm not going to worry about that. And
Right.
so Energy Commission requires this letter saying, from our director, just saying that he's going to enforce it. So the same text can be used if they're still requiring it next time.
Well, that's why the State Energy Commission has all those forms and everything for people to fill out. Is to try to make sure that people are following their directive.
Exactly. But like I said, Barry Hooper will do this portion of it. They also have to make sure everything energy-wise is, has a cost justification with it. They can't require anything that costs more money than it saves. So there's a cost study that Department of Environment hires, and that's part of the submittal to the Energy Commission that Barry Hooper takes care of, along with this letter.
So it's signed by Barry?
No, it's signed by our
Tom.
director.
Yeah, that's why. But he prepared this letter? Okay.
Same thing, there's just an agenda notice for the State Energy Commission. Here's our, our agenda item, and okays it. This is,
That's a green building, right? So usually, all these things are discussed in the green building subcommittee.
hello?
I seldom attend that meeting. Usually Kirk did that. So all these code changes in the green building are handled by the green building subcommittee, right? Which Barry Hooper usually attend that meeting.
Yeah, he forwards them through there,
Yeah,
or helps discuss any of the items as we go through, but along with mechanical upstairs. But this is the cost-effective study that they hired, Department of Environment hired Arab to provide it. So the CEC, the California Energy Commission submittal is this is the letter that Barry wrote to them to submit them, to submit it. He includes a copy of the ordinance, and that been mentioned before, but each ordinance has a legislative digest if it's over, I think, 2 pages long, which is just a dumbed-down version of the basic, what the ordinance is, the existing law, and here's what the current law is, to explain it to the people, general people that need to know, general public, or acting on new code. He sends a copy of the code. Study. Oh, here's one of the so this is the actual Green Building Code, San Francisco amendments. This is what we're sending, a copy of all new words, underline all existing words that we're deleting, crossed out.
Who writes that?
We do. So each one of those code changes, we go into, we went into American Legal and we printed out the whole building code. Each one of the code changes that,
So these sections, are they part of the building code? Or? Okay, part of the building code. That's a state building code though, because there's no A in there. So our San Francisco amendment will be 101A something. But so when there's no A, that's the state code.
they have a different
Yeah, in
numbering
chapter
system.
1, it's chapter 1
in the
instead
Green
of
Building
chapter
Code, though.
1A. But this is green building code, right?
So
So
the,
it's different.
yeah, it's Green Building Code, and the non-bold text is state text,
Okay.
and the bold is San Francisco text, and underline is new San Francisco, and
Yeah.
crossed out could be crossed out state, or it could be old crossed out San Francisco. Usually not though.
So,
Here, that's
so
crossed out
this
state.
is adopted. Okay, so this is
That's my
this
print
is
from
this is
Express Terms.
is a Cal Green. This is Cal Green. So California Green Building Standards Code is same as Cal Green. So this is Cal Green without with the San Francisco amendment. But this is California adopted. Okay, I see. This is Barry Hooper's stuff. So it takes that.
Our stuff is just like it said.
Yeah.
That was my
Okay.
point, though.
Okay.
Our submittal's the same.
Okay, so we just cross out there California and put San Francisco in there.
And Ken did the last code cycle of
Yeah.
this, so he's really familiar with
Yeah.
how all this goes.
It's still basically the same as Cal Green. So
No, it's way different.
it's way different. Okay, with all this amendment. Okay.
Yeah. We delete out a lot of it. And, we do our lead thing and Green Point rated that California doesn't have any of that stuff in there.
Okay.
So we have to meet Cal Green plus the San Francisco amended, which would be the lead or Green Point rated. But Barry does that with the green code, even though we'll probably have the controlling copy of it. But we have to do it for all the other codes. Building and existing building and plumbing, electrical and mechanical. So that's it in a nutshell. No sweat, huh?
So what is this book about?
Oh, in the very end,
Yeah.
at the very end, the Building Standards Commission sends us a letter, says that they've received our amendments in the form of an ordinance locally, and they filed it with the Secretary of State, and that's where I was telling you, that's when ours becomes effective. And so they give you this letter that's verifying that they received it by December 5th, and that they're receiving it as kind of the de facto filing it with the Secretary of State. If you don't get one of these letters, though, if
Yeah.
something's wrong.
So this book is on ethical cycle.
So
We
this
just
is-
have to go through all this procedure, right?
Yeah,
Right.
that's,
So-
this
so
was just a
next
typical.
year- Next year in April, maybe we'll start.
February, I think.
February, okay,
February, yeah.
February, but it's gonna be
Yeah.
more or less finalized.
But we should have another
we
person by December, I think, you know, transfer or new.
Hopefully quicker than that.
Yeah. That way, two people can help. You know, two people can do it. You know, because
So I have talked with the city attorney about it. I think if we're to do that,
So these are the
where
processes.
she knows that
right?
she's gonna have to carry a bigger
So,
burden than in the past.
Administrative process, code adoption, 2013.
he has a
We
2016
already
somewhere.
passed, or you have a 2016? Okay.
Yeah.
So which is similar to these.
Same thing.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.